let's do a little bit of way too early World Series preview type stuff. How do we feel these Dodgers stack up? How do they measure up to the Yankees? And this will probably change a few times between now and game one and pitch one and the 27th out of the game. But offense, we already talked around it a good bit. You've mentioned it. Stanton and Soto are absolutely carrying the Yankees. OPS is over 1,100 so far this postseason. Gleyber Torres, Anthony Volpe up the middle. They're contributing pretty decently on offense. Anthony Rizzo, when he's been in the lineup, it's funny. First base. You got two injured veteran first basemen with one guy who can't play with an ankle. The other guy is playing through broken fingers. But Rizzo, man, he's been very solid with the bat when he's in the lineup. And we know what he's done in the biggest stages, in this biggest stage in baseball in the past. You mentioned Aaron Judge, the numbers aren't there, but it's still Aaron Judge. He can run into one like nobody's business. So these are guys that that's four dudes you need to be extremely careful of if you're Dodgers pitchers. You got to watch out for those guys. And as I said, when you're looking at the importance of anybody coming back, whether it's Gratterall or having Freddie Freeman in the lineup or whatever it is, it's Alex Vesia, in my opinion. Very firmly, it's Alex Vesia, because in that Yankees lineup, there is Juan Soto, there's Jazz Chisholm, there's an Alex Verdugo who very much wants to beat the Dodgers, and there is Anthony Rizzo. So you can't get away with one lefty like you could maybe against the Yankees. Agree, disagree? Is Vesia the most important piece to add back to that dog pound there? I saw somebody, I think it was a shirt or maybe just a hashtag that said TBD, the bullpen dogs, and I just love that so deeply because that's tomorrow's pitcher, TBD, the bullpen dogs. But yeah, Vesia, he's got to be far and away the most important guy.
Yeah, if for no other reason other than just to face Juan Soto. I guess I should lead with this. The Yankees are one of the worst teams in baseball against left-handed pitching. So it's a real shame that we don't really have a left-handed starter without, Clayton Kershaw is obviously injured, done for the year. So yeah, for that reason, I think getting Vesia back would be huge. My concern with that, though, is how healthy he will be.
That's a good point.
Because I don't even think if you get 80% of Alex Vesia, I don't know if that's going to be good enough. At that point, I think I'd rather get another reliever, even if they throw with their right hand versus their left. Because Vesia can also get pretty effectively wild if his mechanics aren't all there. So the last thing we need is for him to face the top of the lineup and, oh, whoops, he just walked Soto and Judge and Giancarlo just sent one out of the stadium. You know what I mean? I could see a world where that happens. So I think they're going to need to be really careful. And if Vesia's on the roster, I kind of need him to be 100% healthy because the last thing that needs to happen is him to be pitching hurt.
No, that's honestly a phenomenal point. I didn't really consider that because when you're saying at 100%, even that's not enough because he's somebody who pitches at 110, 115%, usually when he's on the bump. Maybe if he toned it down just a hair, he wouldn't have blown out that side celebrating that strikeout he got there. And what it was a game 5, game 4, whatever it was.
4.
Still, knowing how good he has been, I do take a reduced Vesia, and I think they be as cautious as they can with him. But the value he brings to that bullpen, guess now you can say the veteran leadership he brings to that bullpen and being somebody where it's not just all on Banda's shoulders, which I not to say that Anthony Banda can't handle this. I don't know. I keep going back and forth between Banda and Banda. I heard one of the white boys in the clubhouse last night call him Banda, so I'm going to go with Banda. I'll just stick with it, even though it's Banda. To have him have a little bit of that respite, I guess we'll say. Just somebody else who can literally shoulder, left shoulder the load in that Dodger bullpen. I think that goes a decent way. And give me 90% of Vesia over... maybe over a Henriquez who we haven't seen enough of Edgardo Henriquez. And the only reason we saw any of them is because of, the Brusdar Gratterall shoulder situation that later became an injury that shut him down for the rest of the regular season.
Yeah.
Sure, man. I need to see him, and I'm really hoping they put in a lot of work. You saw, some of the suction cup spots there in with the shirt off. There, he's wearing his mask, and he's getting his work done. He's getting his treatment. They're doing everything they can with him, the same way they are with Freddie and all this. But he knows the importance his importance to this damn bullpen unit.
Definitely.
Moving on, though, you can limit runs as much as you want. You still got to put points on the board. And as good as we feel about Dodgers pitching, I've heard some people say, including I think Alana was mentioning, the Yankees have better pitching. I really do question that because arguably they have two guys at the top. Not to say anything about what's his name, Carson Schmidt or whatever his first name is. He's been
Clark
solid. Yeah, he's been solid for them. But they're going to be riding on Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon. The big money free agents leading the way from them, a little bit like the Dodgers with Yamamoto. How much do you think the Yankees would love to have not, backed out of that Jack Flaherty deal right about now? Because he's probably starting game 1 or game 2 for the Dodgers. But when you're looking at some of that bullpen in New York, there's some spots that are exposed. There's really only been 3 guys that are solid. Old friend Tommy Kahnle has been nasty this postseason. The changeup is going just all, it's darting all over the place for him in the right way.
Doing what that changeup does.
Yeah. And longtime Dodger specialist. I don't want to call him Dodger killer, but Tim Hill, he's around, former Padre. He lives. He looks like he's done a lot of meth over the last few postseasons or seasons since we've seen him. Luke Weaver's having a really nice postseason for them. But if I'm looking 1 through 12, 1 through 13 between these two pitching units or whatever you want to call it, the pitching staffs, I don't know if I'm being a homer about it. I really like the Dodgers over the Yankees in terms of just the numbers and the stuff and all that, what we've seen so far this postseason, and then just purely looking at Yankees numbers, I like the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where I don't think you can argue that Garrett Cole is the best pitcher in this series. I don't think it's particularly close. But then when you kind of get past that, Carlos Rodon hasn't been amazing. He's been hit or miss. I think he's been a little more hit than miss lately, but I think if you asked a Yankee fan to give an honest evaluation of Rodon and that contract they gave him, I think they'd ultimately probably not be happy with it, even teetering on the edge of regret giving it to him. Because I don't think he's lived up to the amount of money they gave him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely do think that the Dodgers have a much better bullpen, even at the high end and depth. I think Kopech's probably the best bullpen arm on both these teams. You mentioned Kahnle's having a good job. Luke Weaver's having himself a nice postseason as well. But yeah, there's a lot of guys on the Yankees that, they probably wouldn't even make the Dodgers roster. That's not a knock against the Yankees pitchers. It's more of a testament of how good and deep the Dodgers bullpen is right now. So I do think if the Dodgers can get to that bullpen, they're going to have their opportunities, especially because, we saw this with Emmanuel Clase, right? The Guardians have one of, if not the best closer in baseball, but when they had to see him over and over and over again, he got exposed. He got lit up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I think that could, even as good as Weaver's been, if the series goes long and we've had, they're going to see him a third time, potentially a fourth time, I think that's where the Dodgers start getting some of that advantage back where, like we talked about a little bit earlier, I don't necessarily think that the Yankees are going to see Trinan all that much.
Yeah.
Diane Schroeder, really what about Trinan? His stuff is so gross right now. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But it's close-ish no matter what. But I don't I would be shocked if Aaron Judge gets 2 at-bats against Trinan. Yeah. That would be I would be surprised if Dave did that. So I think ultimately I like our pitching if you look at the 1 through 13, but I'm not gonna knock Garrett Cole. He's so good. And he just pitched a great game and his last time through the order.
And he's also another guy, been there, done that. He's earned a World Series as a starter for them hated Astros very, very recently. They have some pieces. I'm not knocking the Yankees at all. I saw somebody puppy butt in the chat saying typical Homer hot takes, and I said, like, I'm trying not to be Homerish about it, but I'm looking at, Michael Kopech, Blake Trinan, and an Evan Phillips in there, possibly an Alex Vesia back. Like, those 4 dudes have been disgusting when healthy, when right. Dan Hudson has a World Series closing appearance. He's saved a World Series, in his time. Ryan Brazier, a World Series champion. If Brusdar Graterol ends up in there, World Series champion. If Joe Kelly, don't really know his status, World Series champion. Like, there's a lot of pieces, and nobody has a lot of book on Ben Kasparius. Not a whole lot of book on somebody like a Landon Knack if he's around. Like, I feel really good about it, but mainly because I'm gonna say 2 things. It's those 4 dudes again. Kopech, Trinan, a lot of Trinan in there, by the way, Phillips, and possibly Vesia, and the fact that the Dodgers are the only team between these 2 teams this October that have already played in New York and Los Angeles. I think that's a little bit of something, even though it shouldn't be very much for the Yankees to fly to LA and play in LA weather. But the fact that the Dodgers are already kind of acclimated to that colder East Coast. There's a lot of things I like about it. Dodgers pitchers have already gone through it. And it's not even being a homer. It's just looking at the numbers. Yankees have their bullpen's given up a lot of runs. Not to say the Dodgers bullpen has not given up runs this postseason. But if Tommy Kahnle's their best guy, guess what? He was just in LA a couple years ago. They kind of know the book on Kahnle too.
Yeah. And if you're looking at the starters, the Dodgers have seen Garrett Cole quite a bit.
Yes.
Mookie, Freddie, Kike all have over or above 900 OPS against him, but he kind of owns the rest of them. They haven't seen that much of Rodon, which is interesting because he was a Giant. But like Mookie is 1 for 19 lifetime against Carlos Rodon. Like, that's pretty terrifying.
That tracks.
Kike is the most hilarious one. He's 3 for 6 with 3 home runs, all solo shots. It looks like. So like, if he makes contact, that ball's gone.
That also
like,
tracks.
He's got like Teoscar's 1 for 9 against a lefty. That's kind of scary. So all that to say, who knows? Because you get small sample sizes but better numbers, or you get the larger sample size with slightly worse numbers. I think it does help that this isn't a pitching staff they're unfamiliar with. There are a lot of former Dodger guys there. I actually don't know if Caleb Ferguson made the postseason roster.
No, he actually got cut and ended up with the Astros.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's not there. What's his name? Victor Gonzalez isn't there anymore. I think only person that's left is like not even in the bullpen. It's Alex Verdugo at this point.
Yeah, and then like you mentioned, Tim Hill once upon a time, and I mean, but the Dodgers have seen him a lot because he pitched for the Padres for so long. So
a whole lot. It's a long time ago now, but still, I think his last time was 2021 or something like that, maybe even before. He's been around the hill, if you will, a time or two. But again, I feel good about these Dodgers. Puppy Butt 310 also said it there in the chat. I got the Dodgers winning this. May be blind confidence, but I have a belief this team is going to get it done against the Yankees, and I do too. I'm pretty sure Kevin does as well. You guys should feel good. We got a lot more content lined up this week. More Dodgers territory also on the horizon, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you guys are subscribed to all the things here, as Jenny says in the chat right now. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in helping support the channel and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show today.